The sun hung low in the sky, casting long shadows over the small town of Umueje. Nestled in the southeastern part of Nigeria, Umueje was a town steeped in tradition and shrouded in mystery. The town was known for its rich history, vibrant culture, and the annual yam festival that drew visitors from far and wide. But recently, Umueje had gained notoriety for something far more sinister. People were disappearing. It started innocuously enough. A young man, Obinna, failed to return home after a night out with friends. His family assumed he had traveled to a nearby town for work, as he often did. But when days turned into weeks with no word from him, worry set in. Soon after, an elderly woman named Nneka disappeared while fetching water from the stream. Her family raised the alarm and a search party was organized, but she was never found. As the disappearances continued, fear gripped the town. The once bustling marketplace grew quieter and people avoided the streets after dark. Whispers of evil spirits and ancient curses began to circulate. The town's elders held meetings and performed rituals to appease the gods, but the disappearances persisted. Nkem Okoye, a young journalist working for a regional newspaper, was intrigued by the stories coming out of Umueje. At 26, Nkem had earned a reputation for fearless reporting and determination to uncover the truth. She had a knack for digging deep into stories, often uncovering corruption and injustice where others saw nothing. When she heard about the mysterious disappearances in Umueje, she knew she had to investigate. Nkem arrived in Umueje on a hot afternoon. The town appeared peaceful, almost idyllic, with its neatly arranged houses, palm trees swaying in the breeze, and the distant sound of children playing. But the tension was palpable. As she walked through the marketplace, she noticed the wary glances from the traders and the hushed conversations that stopped as she approached. She made her way to the home of Chief Ezenwa, the town's most respected elder. Chief Ezenwa was a tall, imposing figure with a stern face and a commanding presence. He had been the town's leader for over 3 decades and was respected and feared by many. Nkem knew that if anyone had answers, it would be him. "Good afternoon, Chief Ezenwa," Nkem greeted as she approached the elder. The chief looked up from the kola nuts he was chewing and nodded. "Good afternoon, my daughter. What brings you to Umueje?" Nkem introduced herself and explained her purpose. "I've heard about the recent disappearances in Umueje and I'm here to investigate. I believe the people of this town deserve to know the truth." Chief Ezenwa's expression darkened. "These are dangerous times, my daughter. The spirits of our ancestors are angry. They demand sacrifices, and until they are appeased, the disappearances will continue." Nkem frowned. "Do you really believe this is the work of the spirits, Chief? Or could there be something more human at play?" The chief's eyes narrowed. "You are young and full of questions, but there are things you do not understand. Umueje is an ancient town with powerful forces at work. It is best not to meddle into things beyond your comprehension." Undeterred, Nkem pressed on. "With all due respect, Chief, I don't believe in coincidences. Something is happening in this town and I intend to find out what it is." Chief Ezenwa sighed, his stern demeanor softening slightly. "I admire your courage, but be careful, Nkem. There are forces here that you cannot fight. If you insist on pursuing this, do so with caution." Nkem thanked the chief and left his compound, her mind racing with questions. She knew she was onto something, but what? Were the disappearances really the work of angry spirits, or was there a more sinister explanation? Nkem spent the next few days talking to the families of the missing people. Each story was similar: a loved one who had gone out and never returned. The families were distraught, but there was little they could do. The local police had conducted perfunctory investigations but had found no leads. Nkem's investigation led her to the edge of the town where an ancient forest known as Ajogu loomed. The forest was considered sacred, a place where the spirits of the ancestors resided. No one ventured into the forest except during certain rituals, and even then it was with great fear and reverence. She spoke to some of the elders who performed the rituals in the forest. They were tight-lipped, refusing to reveal much about what went on during their ceremonies. But one elder, a frail man named Paanayo, let slip something that piqued Nkem's interest. "The spirits are restless," Paanayo said in a trembling voice. "They demand something, something more. The sacrifices we offer are no longer enough." "What kind of sacrifices?" Nkem asked, trying to keep her voice steady. Paanayo shook his head. "It's not for you to know, my daughter. Leave this place before it is too late." But Nkem was not one to be easily deterred. She decided to investigate the forest herself, despite the warnings. Late one evening, she made her way to the edge of Ajogu, armed with a flashlight and a notebook. The forest was dense and foreboding, the trees towering high above her, blocking out the moonlight. The air was thick with the scent of damp earth and decaying leaves. As she ventured deep into the forest, the silence was deafening. The only sound was the crunch of leaves under her feet and the occasional rustle of animals in the underbrush. Nkem's heart pounded in her chest, but she pressed on. She had a feeling that the answer she sought lay within this forest. After what felt like hours of walking, she stumbled upon a clearing. In the center of the clearing was a large stone altar stained with what looked like dried blood. Surrounding the altar were symbols etched into the ground, symbols she did not recognize, but that filled her with a sense of dread. As she examined the altar, she heard a noise behind her, a low guttural growl. She spun around, her flashlight beam cutting through the darkness. Standing at the edge of the clearing was a figure, tall and shadowy, its eyes glowing a sickly yellow. Nkem froze, her breath catching in her throat. The figure stepped forward, and she realized with horror that it was not entirely human. Its face was twisted, its skin was pale and cracked, its hands were clawed. It was something out of a nightmare. Before she could react, the creature lunged at her. Nkem turned and ran, her flashlight bouncing wildly in her hand as she sprinted through the forest. She could hear the creature behind her, its footsteps heavy and fast. Panic surged through her as she pushed herself to run faster. She burst out of the forest and into the open air, her lungs burning and her heart pounding. She didn't stop running until she reached the safety of her hotel room in the town center. There, she collapsed onto the bed, trembling with fear and exhaustion. Nkem knew she had stumbled onto something far more dangerous than she anticipated. The disappearances, the forests, the creature, everything was connected. But how? And who was behind it all? The following day, Nkem returned to Chief Ezenwa's compound. She needed answers and she was determined to get them. When she arrived, she was surprised to find the chief in the company of several other elders, including Paanayo. They were deep in conversation, their faces grave. "Nkem," Chief Ezenwa greeted her, his tone unusually cold. "What brings you here?" "I need to know the truth, Chief," Nkem said, her voice firm. "What is happening in Umweje? What is going on in that forest?" The elders exchanged uneasy glances, and Chief Ezenwa sighed. "You are persistent, I will give you that. But some truths are too dangerous to reveal." "Please, Chief," Nkem pressed. "I saw something in that forest, something that cannot be explained by superstition or folklore. If you know anything, you have to tell me." For a moment, there was silence. Then Paanoyo spoke up, his voice shaking. "The disappearances, they are not the work of spirits. They are work of men." Nkem's eyes widened. "What do you mean?" Chief Ezenwa leaned forward, his expression serious. "Many years ago, this town faced a great famine. The land was barren. the rivers dry, and the people were starving. In our desperation, we turned to the old ways, the forbidden rituals of our ancestors. We made a pact with a powerful entity that dwells in the forest. A pact? Nkem repeated, her voice barely above a whisper. Yes, the chief continued. In exchange for the prosperity of our town, we agreed to provide sacrifices, human sacrifices. It was a terrible price, but it saved our people from starvation. The entity provided us with bountiful harvests, abundant rains, and good fortune. But over the years, the sacrifices became more frequent, more demanding. Nkem felt a chill run down her spine. And the disappearances? Chief Ezenwa nodded grimly. The entity takes those who are chosen by the elders. We have tried to keep the sacrifices to a minimum, but recently the entity has become insatiable. It demands more and more, and we are powerless to stop it. Nkem was horrified. You mean to tell me that the elders of this town are responsible for those disappearances? That you're sacrificing innocent people to this thing in the forest? It's not something we do lightly, but Anayo said, his voice filled with regret. We are trapped in this pact, bound by the blood of our ancestors. If we refuse, the entity will take its revenge on the entire town. This is madness, Nkem whispered, her mind reeling. You can't keep doing this. You have to stop. We cannot, Chief Ezenwa said, his voice heavy with sorrow. We are bound by the pact. If we break it, the consequences will be catastrophic. Nkem stood up, her resolve hardening. I won't let this continue. I won't let this continue. I will expose the truth, and I will bring justice to those who have been taken. You don't understand, Chief Ezenwa warned. If you reveal the truth, the entity will come for you. It will come for all of us. I don't care, Nkem said defiantly. The people of Umweje deserve to know the truth, and I won't stop until they do. With that, she turned and walked out of the compound. She knew she was taking a great risk, but she also knew she couldn't turn back now. The truth had to be told. Nkem wasted no time in writing her article. She detailed everything she had discovered, the disappearances, the ancient pact, the entity in the forest, and the involvement of the town's most respected figures. She knew it was a dangerous move, but she also knew it was the right thing to do. When the article was published, it sent shockwaves through Umweje. The townspeople were horrified and outraged. They had trusted the elders, believed in their wisdom and guidance, only to discover that they had been betrayed in the most horrific way. But the truth came at a price. That night, a terrible storm descended on Umweje. The wind howled through the streets, and the rain fell in torrents. The townspeople huddled in their homes, praying for the storm to pass. But in the darkness, something stirred in the forest. The entity, enraged by the broken pact, emerged from Ajogu. It moved through the town like a shadow, silent and unseen, leaving destruction in its wake. Houses were torn apart, crops were destroyed, and the rivers overflowed, flooding the town. Nkem knew she was the target. She could feel the entity's presence, a cold, malevolent force closing in on her, but she refused to run. She had faced danger before, and she would face it again, no matter the cost. As the storm raged outside, Nkem barricaded herself in her hotel room. She knew she couldn't fight the entity with physical strength, but she also knew she had something more powerful: the truth. She had exposed the darkness that had plagued Umweje for years, and she believed that the truth would protect her. The entity's presence grew stronger, the air around her growing colder. She could hear it now, a low growling sound that filled the room. but she stood her ground, her heart steady, her resolve unshaken. Then, just as suddenly as it had started, the storm stopped. The wind died down, the rain ceased, and the growling faded into silence. Nkem held her breath, waiting for the next move, but there was nothing. The entity had retreated, defeated by the light of the truth. The next morning, the townspeople emerged from their homes, stunned by the destruction around them. But as they surveyed the damage, they also realized something else. The curse that had plagued their town was finally lifted. The entity was gone and the pact was broken. Nkem was hailed as a hero, the woman who had saved Umueje from its dark past. But she knew the victory had come at a great cost. The town would take years to recover from the devastation, and the scars of the past would not easily fade. But at least now, the people of Umueje were free to rebuild their lives without fear. And in conclusion, the story of Umueje is a testament to the power of truth, the importance of integrity, and the need for accountability in leadership. It reminds us that we must always question authority, seek the truth, and stand up for what is right, even when it is difficult or dangerous to do so. Thank you for watching this video.